Welcome to Epic Content Marketing 2016. I'm lucky to be sitting here with Joe Pulizzi. You just had a great talk about
Thank
content
you.
marketing and really highlighted stuff that hasn't been talked about in the Norwegian marketing business for a couple of years at least. Can you just walk our audience through what you were talking about?
Yeah, I mean, the whole idea is instead of just sending out content, as much content as possible to as many audiences, I think we've got to almost think about the less is more strategy. First of all, let's get a strategy. Let's document that strategy. Let's figure out who our specific audience is and find an area where we can actually be the leading expert in something and deliver consistently. I think where a lot of businesses fall down is they focus on campaigns.
Yeah.
Short-term things, and that makes sense. We've been focusing on campaigns for the last 50 years, but we've got to say, look, if we're going to act and think like a media company, we've got to really deliver value consistently over time, and it takes time to build a relationship, a loyal relationship with an audience.
Yeah.
And then once we build that audience that knows, likes, and trusts us, then we can start to extract value from that instead of right away, I need to get the leads and I need to drive sales. It does take some time to do that, and maybe the one area that maybe a lot of brands here fall down is it's like, I've got a really good story to tell. I'll just throw it on every platform in the world. Where what we know what works is focusing on one content type, one platform, consistently delivering over time, just like every successful media company has done since the dawn of time. We forgot about that, or maybe we don't realize that. So if we really start to go that direction, that's a really good place to start.
But how do you go about to define or identify the audience you need to talk to?
Well, hopefully, if you are selling products and services, you understand who the audience you're targeting. Let's just take a business-to-business company.
Yeah.
Any business-to-business company has, let's say, 7 to 9 buyers, decision makers, influencers in that process. So right now you know that, there's 7 to 9 possible audiences that we could talk to. You have to choose one. Every one of those audiences, they want to know something different about whatever the problem is or whatever the business that you're in. So you have to just focus on one. If you're trying to target 3 of those different audiences, you have a different content marketing mission statement for each one of those because their needs and their pain points are different. So that's really the place that we need to start and just say, we're not going to boil the ocean with our content here. We can't start and do this all at one time. Let's just start with one. Let's run a pilot to just one of those, get really good at that, build an audience over time, and then we can start to do other things.
Yeah. One of the things that I really hate to talk about when I'm in a meeting with a potential new client is that I often ask about who's your target audience, and let's say it's a sneaker store. They say, well, Norway, everyone should buy our sneakers. But in most cases, or in all cases, that's not how it's done. When it comes to content marketing, because I know I work with Facebook myself, and I have strategies and I have implemented tactics to identify, let's say, age groups and interests and stuff like that. But to get there, you have to spend some money, of course. But before you do this, before you kind of spend money on promoting you talked about that Facebook wasn't the ideal platform to share content. Let's say Norwegian businesses share the content on Facebook. Before you do that, you have to create the content. How can I go about to find out what tone I should write my content in and how I should build my story up and what it should contain before publishing it on Facebook and before spending money on it?
Well, so let's just go through basic strategy development. By the way, most brands don't even have a documented strategy. We know this.
Yeah.
So we're starting with, I want to do a blog. I want to create content on Facebook. Okay, that's way far down in the process. Let's figure out, where do we have a knowledge or skill area, authority area that we can actually communicate on? That's the one side. And on the other side, let's focus on that specific customer. What's their pain point? What do they really want to know? That's what we call the sweet spot. And then we move to stage 2 is what we called, and I talked about the content tilt. What is your different story that you're gonna talk about differently than any other company out there? Like, why, if you're gonna create a piece of content, but that content can be found on 20 other sites, what makes you so special? Why are they gonna go to you? So you really have to figure out what's that differentiated story that you actually have a chance to break through all the clutter that's on the web right now. That's basic publishing. That's publishing 101, but most companies don't get there. And when we start looking at, when I go into enterprises and we look and do a content audit and see all the content they're creating, we realize that, this is not differentiated at all. It's nothing special. It doesn't take into, it doesn't look at our tone, our voice. Are we sarcastic with our content? Are we humorous? How do we want to tell that story? What makes sense for our brand? I mean, you want to look at all those types of things, and that's upfront in the process. So specifically, you're going to ask yourself questions like, who is the specific audience? What are we trying to accomplish with this? What makes the most sense from how we're going to tell that story? And then you get into the ways that you're going to distribute the content, like what content type is it? Is this story better told in audio versus video versus text and images? And you can start to make some decisions where you can then make your platform. And that's where I really think that instead of saying, okay, we're going to tell this story, we're going to tell it in audio, video, and textual and image, I think you choose one. You get really good at one way to do it consistently over time, and then as you build that audience, then you can add in those other components.
Every now and then, while falling asleep, I get an amazing idea for a blog post or a white paper or anything like that, and I write it out, I publish it, and then it gets heaps of traffic, but then it can go like everything from 1 week to 6 months before I get that idea again. The ideal thing would be to kind of figure out those like key things to write about.
The easiest thing is so let's just say that it's an informational site. Let's say you're a business company and you just want to do informational sites. So you've got your audience, you understand what your differentiation point is going to be. Start listing questions, and you can go to Google and you can find out, okay, what are people searching for? You can talk to your customers directly. You could go to customer service. You could go to the sales team. They're getting questions all the time. Like what questions are you getting from customers right now? I'm going to ask the sales team. What are you getting that you just can't answer, or you answer ongoing and you wish that you could attract more people that way? And realistically, if you do that right, you're probably going to have 50, 100, 150 questions right off the bat. Then you don't have to worry about, okay, when's that next great idea? You've got that listed, and then that list of questions will fill your editorial calendar.
Okay. But what do you do if you don't have access to a sales team? You don't have access to, or let's say if I wanted to write about content marketing, doing a search on Google, I guess, and I think that the first suggestion that come up is, what is content marketing? And if I search on what is content marketing, I'll probably get millions of hits on blogs and sites that's been writing about the same thing for years. You were talking about finding the things that differentiate you, like from others.
Sure.
Talking about content marketing, let's say Ola and Carl wanted to do a piece about content marketing to attract visitors to their websites. Where can you figure out what to differentiate on?
Well, so let's take this event. I mean, we're talking about specifically Norwegian marketers.
Yeah.
So Norwegian marketers have different challenges than Swedish marketers do, than they do in Finland, than they do in the United States. So right off the bat, you've got a differentiation point where we're just talking about case studies specifically to Norway. Maybe there's not a site that talks about specific case studies in content marketing in Norway. Maybe there is, I don't know. But let's just say there's not. There's a huge opportunity. Let's say for us, Content Marketing Institute, I couldn't go and just do stuff about content marketing. It's too broad. It's too big. We can do that now because we started in 2007. So we were one of the first ones to do that. Now we can't. Now we've got to go into financial content marketing or nonprofit. There's another way to look at it. Let's say that this is a big hub for builders or finance companies. So you could say, oh yeah, now we can talk about those types of things because that's more of a need in this area. So you can't go too niche to start off with. A lot of businesses are scared because they want to go broad because they want to target as many people as possible. It's not the number, it's the who.
I think that's an actual problem in Norway, because someone actually asked you a question about how can you compare the American market towards the Norwegian market, where we're barely above 5-6 million people.
Sure. It's not the number. Like 5-6 million people isn't your target. So who's the audience that you're trying to target? It could be, let's say, 50,000. Well, of those 50,000, if you got an e-newsletter subscriber list that was 5,000, that could be enough. That could be because if you need to sell 2 or 3 projects and target those, that's more than enough. So it's never about numbers. I mean, one of the example that I shared to the woman that asked the question was, we used to do a program targeting just 100 people. 100 people in the world. That was the specific role in that business. That's who they were trying to target. That's a very small audience, but a very powerful buying power behind it. So let's just focus on that and not the number. So when you go through the process and the strategy, figure out, we call it a minimum viable audience.
Yeah.
What's the minimum viable audience that you know that you would have to reach to make all this work and actually show return on investment at the end of the day? Could be 1,000.
Yeah.
If you're a consumer company, maybe it's 500,000, whatever that number is, and then just work to that goal and just focus on that and don't try to sell against it. Don't worry about leads. Just get to that audience goal as quickly as possible so you're just focused on their needs.
I think both you and Michael highlighted that marketers should focus on building subscribers to build retention. What do you see any challenges in terms of ad blocking and the way consumers are adapting to pop-ups and stuff like that?
The reason why you focus on subscribers, and let's say specifically email subscribers, where somebody opts into your content and says, yeah, I want to get this content, please send it to me on a regular basis. That's more powerful than any connection you can get on social media, because you can't control those connections on other social media properties. Right. They can change the algorithms at any time. So what do we have control over? Email. When somebody comes to your site, to your piece of content, what's your call to action? In most sites, your calls to action are generally, oh, try this product demo.
Yeah.
They're not ready to buy yet. They're just dealing with the problem. So don't have the call to action go to a product. Have it go to, hey, you want more of this great content? Let me send it to you.
Yeah.
And then you start to build that list where you can communicate with them on a one-on-one basis, where you don't have to worry about, oh, how do I get their attention, focus on display and advertising and ad blocking that's going away. You're just focusing on pure content and then a content call to action against that content and an email newsletter.
Yeah.
And I'll end with this. The biggest issue is most email newsletters are horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, you see it, right? You get them in your inbox, they're terrible. We have to create a email deliverable that's actually valuable. It's not salesy, that's not pitchy, and focus on that. So where we have a lot of brands that go to the starting blocks and just trying to figure this thing out, they have to really re-engineer their e-newsletter because it's so poor and it's so bad. You have to create something that they're not going to want to delete or put into spam.
But in order to get return on investment, building an email base and retaining them means that you have to both provide your visitors with valuable content, but you also have to build content for the email subscribers.
Right.
Won't you then double your amount of work?
You don't have to. I mean, there's a lot of small companies that we've worked with that said, okay, well, how do we do this? Let's say they end up blogging 3 times a week. Well, you can take pieces of that 3 times to little abstracts and links, and it becomes your emails, the repository for that. But what I would recommend is it's got to be something different in the e-newsletter. I'll give you an example of what we do. We send out 1 weekly e-newsletter, and I personally, as the founder of CMI, create a piece of content that they can't get anywhere else. It's not a blog post anywhere else.
Yeah.
There's no other way to access it, so that if you want to subscribe to the email newsletter, we're giving you something that you can't find anywhere else. So what is that for you? Is it a tool? Is it an infographic? Is it something that you can build off the back of your other content? It doesn't have to be rocket science. You could actually do this program with one platform, like let's say it's a blog, a podcast, a video, and an e-newsletter. That's really all you need to do to start with. You don't have to focus on, oh, what do I do with Facebook or what do I do with Twitter? I mean, those are other things that you can focus on later once you build that platform.
Yeah. But what do you do when you have those, let's say, 10,000 subscribers? I guess if I would wake up tomorrow and have 10,000 subscribers on my email list, I would panic and be like, okay, so what do I do now? When do I sell? When can I pull back my investment?
So if you're doing this right, let's say you have your e-newsletter, it's okay to put sales messaging in the e-newsletter. Just don't do it within the content.
Okay.
So if let's say that you're getting a 2-column e-newsletter, on the side it says, hey, if you want more answers to these questions, contact us here. Or have this contact us form. The most interesting thing about, in our personal case, is we work with some of the largest companies in the world, and I have a slide that I've presented on, and I said, okay, here's all the great companies we've worked with throughout the world. And I got the question once, like, did you have business development people? Do you have salespeople calling those? How did you get those? And I said, well, believe it or not, they're all subscribers, and they all then, when they were ready to buy, they reached out to us to our contact form on our site and submitted.
Yeah.
That's how we got all of them.
Yeah.
So it was 100% inbound strategy. So if you do this right, and then you just put proper placements of, here's to contact us. You could do it at the end of the e-newsletter. You could do it on the side. You can do it as a break in the middle. You'll start getting people that says, yes, I'm actually ready to buy. You're the expert. I know, like, and trust you. Can I have more information about that?
Yeah. There's a lot of marketing automation and inbound softwares or software programs out there. And I guess most of the businesses that think that, we got to start with content marketing, they go to technology first and choose the publishing platform and stuff like that first. Would you say that's a bad or a good thing?
It happens all the time, and it usually doesn't work.
Because you mentioned that you have to build a minimum viable audience. Wouldn't you then also have to have a minimum viable strategy and tactics to reach those goals?
Strategy and the technology are two different things.
Yeah.
So yes, I love when we have a marketing automation system. I want to get more data. I want to figure out the buyer's journey. The marketing automation is great for that, but what most people use marketing automation for is a glorified email distribution.
Exactly.
So you could just use an email provider.
Yeah.
You could have your content management system and an email provider to start with. Build your minimum viable audience, and then when you have that minimum viable audience, you're like, okay, now it's working. We're getting incoming. Now we want to be a little bit more sophisticated about that process. Then and only then do you want to look at a marketing automation solution.
Yeah.
Don't go to technology first. Actually, you don't even need a lot of technology to show your ROI on content marketing. You just take your email subscription database, take that against whatever database you have, even if it's in a spreadsheet of your customers, and then look at what's different.
Yeah.
Do they buy more? Do they stay longer? Do they close faster? Those things you can look at without marketing automation. Then when you're sophisticated, you're getting revenue, and then I would look at a more comprehensive solution from a technology standpoint.
I was actually thinking about subscribing with automation software now, but I think I'll manage it on my own.
It's worth looking at,
but
I think that what most companies do is they think that technology is going to be their savior, and it's not.
Exactly.
If you don't have a compelling story on a consistent basis,
that's the way they communicate.
There's no amount of technology that's going to help you do that.
Yeah.
What happens with most marketing automation implementations is somebody will buy the software and they use like 1% of it, and then they're not getting the ROI off of that investment, and then it usually goes down the tubes, so they got to rework the whole thing.
Yeah.
So don't even go there. Let's just wait a little bit until we're ready.
Yeah.
The way that I like to look at technology is I want the pain to hurt so bad until we say we have to get this technology. Then you do it.
Yeah.
So hold off as long as you can, and then when you're ready, then go ahead and purchase.
And so to sign off, is there anything you would say that, let's say a business is thinking about starting with content marketing because the term is in the wind these days, everyone's talking about it, no one knows what it is. Where should they start? What should they do?
Well, what you want to start, it doesn't have to be a 20-page PowerPoint or a long document. It has to be a basic strategy. Just start asking yourself a couple things like, who are we targeting? What's the specific audience? What's the story that we're going to tell? How are we going to tell that story? Start listing those things. And then the big question is why? Why are you doing this? What is the real reason? And then you can start looking at, okay, what is we called it return on objective. What is the objective? What's the organizational goal that you're going to focus on? So ROI is so huge and all-encompassing. You're like, ROI, don't just simplify. Just say return on objective. What is our ultimate goal? Is it to get more leads ultimately? Is it to direct sales? Then you can start to look at, okay, what are those metrics that we've got to move the needle to? And you want to start listing those things. It doesn't take that much to do that. Just people don't document that or write that down. Then that's a living document. Yeah. You want to update that on an ongoing basis as you learn more about your audience and as you go. Yeah. And then as you do execute, and I can't stress this enough, start very simple. Start with a simple pilot program, one content type, one platform. Deliver consistently. Pick whatever frequency that you can deliver really high value content on a consistent basis, and then be patient as you can. Generally, these programs take about a year to get going, so you have to sort of build that in, and then I think you'll be successful. If you might have to decide, hey, all these other things we're doing, not important. Let's focus on being great at this one thing.
Yeah. Fantastic.
You got it.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you.